So, welcome to today's webinar. Our topic today is Google Analytics, and that's a pretty big and probably loaded topic. Today we're going to talk about is it really the right or the best tool for your needs and for the marketing needs today.
Okay, so in about 30 minutes from now, you're going to know, so mainly we're going to speak about like how to look at your key metric, which question to ask, and mainly how to look at it from a different angle, and the pro and cons of Google Analytics, and most important, how to get actionable data without lots of resources. I know that most of you don't have a developer and a data scientist and an analyst that is just working for you, and you don't have too much time for it, but you do want to be data oriented, so how to do it right.
Right, so my name is Ophir. I'm the VP of Product at Oribi, and prior to joining Oribi, I was a VP of Marketing at a large startup company, and I managed a team of 10 really smart people. And one of the common challenges that we had was, with all the tools that we have outside, we have and we're utilizing, how do we really get actionable data? How do we get the right answers? And so for me, joining Oribi was kind of like, now I have a chance to really build a tool that I would have wanted to use. And so that's kind of why I'm really excited to be kind of hosting this webinar as well. And with me, I have Iris, a serial entrepreneur, the CEO of Oribi. Hi, Iris.
Yeah, hi. So I'm CEO of Oribi. This is my third company. Each company was very different, but all of them were successful. And I'm very much of a marketing and product person. And I think that what I really love doing best is to create products with real value that people love. And I find it more interesting to take products that people don't like, and instead of reinventing the wheel, just to replace them with better products. So that's what I've done with the previous companies, but I think that that's also like a very interesting trend that we see with other very large companies. So it's not about investing something from scratch, it's about saying like what you have today is not working right, and it's probably not suitable for all the changes that are happening in the world. So even, for example, let's take Zoom, that all of us probably use these days. I think that before there was like Skype, and people thought it's okay, and the market was like allegedly like very crowded, and there were like WebEx and other tools, but they still managed to really create a good user experience. And I decided to start Oribi and to focus on an alternative for Google Analytics, mainly because I feel that this is like a tool that everybody uses. All companies, small and large, use this tool, but most people, they don't like it. They don't really understand what to do with the data over there. I have to say that I'm a big fan of Google, and I think that they have like amazing products. I'm not trying to go head to head with Google, but I find it amazing that marketers today are unable to answer like very, very simple questions of what makes people to sign up, what is the impact of each one of my activities, do my blog readers actually convert more? And that's what we're trying to solve with Oribi, and to have people love data and love being data oriented. Okay, so Google Analytics was created 20 years ago. So this is just a reminder of the ecosystem that we had 20 years ago. The most popular phone was this model of Nokia. The iPod was actually released in 2001, so a year later. And the most successful video game was SimCity. And I think that what I find very interesting is that if you look at most of like these products and other tools, they weren't improved. So none of us are using Nokia today. It was more about like a different concept. And I feel that Google Analytics is kind of like a modern Nokia. So if it was Nokia, it would have looked like nicer, better design, maybe more features. But we want a smartphone, and we want a very different approach. And if we have like the technology advantage and we can do things differently, so this is the right thing. So I think that it's not by mistake that all of these tools were replaced by something different and by a different concept. And as I mentioned, while many features were added to Google Analytics, and I guess it's probably most of you are using Google Analytics for probably 5 years, 10 years, maybe even more, you still see like it's kind of the same. So there are some new features, the design is a bit more friendly, but it's more or less the same. And it's web analytics. Like the answer that they tried to provide 20 years ago is just to understand what is going on your website. So how many people visited the website, where they're coming from, what is the bounce rate, and how much time did they spend on the site. But I feel that these are not the right questions for today. And right now that marketing is so complex, and you do so many different activities with different channels, and you try to measure different things, you need a different tools. You need also us as marketers are being measured on different. No, it's okay. Sure, you can go ahead with the slide.
Yes, sir.
And what I started to say is that even us as marketers, we're not being measured on the time on site or the bounce rate. No one got promoted because of like a different bounce rate. It's more about the business objectives. So it's not.
I think here's this is an interesting point, right? Because it's weird that, or it makes sense that we started using Google Analytics, and we started as marketers ask ourselves questions based on the data that Google Analytics gives us, and not only based on what are the real questions that we want to answer. Like, it's what is the data that we have? We have bounce rate. So is it up? Is it down? Let's measure ourselves based on that, and not maybe what do we want to ask ourselves? What is a success for us, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's because it's so widely used. So you're kind of like programmed to think with these terms. And while we're being measured on how we contribute to sales, how many leads we bring, and other metrics. So the way we look at it is about like more of marketing analytics. So the answers that you should provide, that the tool should provide, is what is the impact of each marketing activity. So let's say, for example, we have this webinar, and we'll probably want to measure in about a week how many of you tried the product, how many of you became engaged users. These are the main questions. And where should you place the next dollar? How should you allocate the budget? And how different channels work together. So if we're looking like 20 years ago, Mark Zuckerberg was 16 years old. There wasn't Facebook, there wasn't Twitter. It wasn't as complex as today, that you really need to understand the entire connection and the net of all the different channels and the activities that you do.
Yeah, I think I had I had the same kind of issue when I was leading a marketing team, and it's always, I think the second question is a key one. Where should you invest the next dollars? It's not just like marketing spend. It's also the resources, the people. Should we write another blog post? Was the blog post even successful? All right, we had a lot of visitors, but did it actually convert people to signups or to demo requests or to purchases on my website? And so those are the key questions that it was very hard for us to answer, as we always changed a lot of the things.
Yeah, definitely. And this is like a typical marketing calendar. Probably yours looks the same, and it includes all the different activities, the content you write, the new videos that you produce, advertising, webinars, and any activity. And I think that the main question that we're trying to ask is how each activity really contributes to your main goals and to sales. And so if you can move forward. So I think this is what we all want to see. If we could get like a score for each activity we're doing throughout the week, and to understand that, and for example, like the video that we added to the homepage had like an amazing impact, and more people are converting because of this video, and that the recent blog post that you wrote and you worked on for 3 days is doing nothing, that many people read it but no one of them converted. This is like the key for optimization and for understanding like how to build your team and where to allocate your resources.
Yeah, and I think and I think that's kind of the key here, is to know which questions do you want to ask, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. And let's ask now, why can't you do it with Google Analytics? I would say, I do want to highlight that you can do everything with Google Analytics if you have like endless resources, you have lots of developers, you can probably answer each question, but the basic use of Google Analytics is something that is much harder to do. So first of all, I think that just creating the data layer. So let's say, for example, if we're looking at the marketing calendar and we want to see the impact of the blog post and the webinar and the video and the advertising and the activity on social media, you need to have these events as data. You want to create the correlations between the webinar participants and the engaged users. So we need to create this data, and today the only way to do it is with developers and to modify the website. And probably all of you had the same experience of nagging a developer for months in order to do it and get permissions in order to add new events to the website. And there should be more advanced channel analysis. As I mentioned, it's much more complex today. You probably touch the same user with different channels, and you need to understand the impact of each one of them. And actionable data. You want to know what to do next, not just to see the data itself.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of something that's key to highlight, because I think we got so used to asking questions based on the data that right now we're trying to say, all right, so we have bounce rate, how is it affecting something? But if we look at the business side of things, right, I want to know how many people signed up. I want to know how many people asked for a demo. Out of those, I want to know how many people are actually qualified, or in our case, for example, if you have a lot of traffic, that usually makes you kind of a good user of Oribi. So we want to be able to know throughout the journey of the user, we want to know what drives these people towards taking specific actions, and not just like show me high level, this specific page, how many unique visitors did it have in the last month?
Yeah.
So I think that's key.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which kind of I think leads me to what I was hoping and wanted to show today is kind of how we do it and how we measure those things. I guess our questions are very similar to the questions that a lot of you are asking yourselves on probably a day-to-day basis, which kind of we showed earlier. And I think the key for us as we created Oribi was, first of all, make a tool that we would like to use. And the second thing is make sure we, again, don't have to chase developers. Developers are really nice people for the most part, but they're very busy. And as an organization, we want them focused on building awesome products.
Yeah, it's also like as marketers, we want to move fast. We don't want to be dependent on anyone else or on a different team.
Right, and so the key part here was codeless events. We need to track everything and anything from the moment kind of we see it or we change something. We want to be able to track it immediately, not wait for a while and then add an event there and then wait for a while again to have it collect data. So everything needs to be tracked automatically without any use of code. But the second thing, and that's I think something that was super important, is we need clear action items. What can I do tomorrow to improve my channels, to improve my funnels, to improve my landing pages or my site visits throughout the site? And the third thing was important to us, we're not going to touch on it today during the webinar, but built-in integrations. We want to be able to use those codeless events and that data that we aggregate and be able to create smarter Facebook and Google campaigns. So if I can create a conversion on a campaign that's not just how many signups did I have or how many visits did I have, I can really target the people that actually matter for my website. And so with that, I think I'm just going to jump to show you how we actually do it in Oribi. But before that, I wanted to share how our website looks like. This is Oribi's website. And we have naturally are using Oribi on Oribi. And what we're seeing here is that we have many call to actions and many buttons. In this case, let's say I would like to measure try Oribi for free. That's usually what people will go to sign up. Okay? So what I would want to do is I would want to go to a tool that can show me. Hold on, let me move to my Oribi screen. I want to go to a tool that can show me what happened, right? And this is just the Oribi dashboard. But what I would want to do is I would want to tell Oribi, hey, I know I have a button there that says try Oribi for free, right? So let me measure that. And what Oribi will do then, it will show me, hey, do you want to measure? I identify this button, try Oribi for free. I see it on 27 pages. Let's highlight that. And once we highlight that, it basically groups all the buttons. Now here it recognizes that this button sends to 2 different pages. So let's remove this one. It's not that relevant. And what we'll do right now, it will show me all the clicks on sign up or try Oribi for free. What's cool here is that it identified a behavior, not just so I wanted to see try it for free, but Oribi told me, hey, I see that the try it free directs people to the sign up page, and I see there are other buttons that you may have not thought about. Oh yeah, of course, I forgot those buttons. They're on different landing pages, but they all send people to the sign up. So if I want to measure my signups, I would probably want to also measure get started. I would probably also want to measure get 10 days for free and anything that we A/B tested and tried. And so it automatically groups all of those. And as I click on this, that's it. I think what's really cool about this is that I can then right there explore what happened and how many people signed up retroactively. So Oribi will collect all the data all the time. No matter where you have the question, no matter when you're asking the question, it can show it to you retroactively. So from the moment Oribi is installed until the moment you decided to ask the question, or remember to ask, hey, I forgot to send events on signups, it works retroactively.
Yeah, so it's like, I guess that many of you had the experience of asking, like, you had like this burning desire to ask this question, and you want to understand like how many people that arrive from a certain channel, certain flow, signed up. Only then you define the event. You need to sit and wait for 2 weeks until you collect data. And with Oribi, everything that you define. So, for example, if you want to see like how this webinar participants behave, I can also do it in like 2 months from now, and they'll have all the data.
Yeah, and here I only look at the people who signed up for Oribi, and I can see it appears in 35 pages. Okay. What I can also see here is a trend line of all the signups. And Oribi automatically identify, hey, there was a traffic spike from YouTube a few days ago, right? Here I see there's a traffic spike from Google Paid for people who converted, who signed up, right? And it also tells me, hey, you might want to check out, you had a few new pages that were created. Here we had a summer deal landing page. You might want to check that out and see how that kind of affected the bottom line. And as I scroll down, and again, remember, we're only looking right now at all our signups, but I can do it for any event. What we can see here is we can see all the people that have signed up from our multiple channels that we're running campaigns in. But even more important than that, we can see the conversion rates out of each channel. So in this example, I can see that although I had 271 signups from YouTube, and I only had 238 signups from Google Paid, I had a higher conversion rate of users that came from Google Paid and ended up signing up. And so for me, again, the question of where should I spend my money on, or what should I spend my budget on tomorrow, this is something that's key for me to know, hey, where do I need to spend more budget? And we have it on desktop versus mobile, and again, conversion rates for each. I'm not going to dive into that. And here we have, it's based on UTMs, because we send a lot of emails. And we send a lot of, you can see here, in-app messages through Intercom. And we want to know the effect of each of those. No more open rates and click-through rates. Let's see how many people have actually signed up from the emails that we sent. And so we can see it right here using the UTMs. And one more thing is we want to see, and Oribi again identify that we have different sign-up buttons everywhere. So we want to see which pages convert better, which pages lead people better to the sign-up. And so here I can see on the home page, and I open it up, and I can see I have different buttons, right? I have try Oribi for free, I have sign up, I have this localization translate thing, and I can see how many people basically signed up from each of those channels and clicked on each of those buttons.
What we demoed right now is, let's say, for example, that you have a question, if you want to see, like, you have different call to actions with different labels on the website, and you want to see which one of them convert best. So you can do it in like 1 minute. So you can define the event in like 30 seconds to see exactly how many conversions you got from each one, what is the percentage, what is the conversion rate of each one of them, and to really answer like the complex questions in a few minutes.
Exactly. And I can see here that I have a landing page that we created that has a 30% conversion rate, which is really interesting. And let's say, now I understand which channels drive more traffic and more relevant traffic. But now I would like to understand that on a deeper level, what's the journey that users kind of go throughout my application? And so for that, we can kind of go to individual journeys. And in this case, you saw that I kind of changed. This is unlike what I just showed you, this is a demo mock app, just because this feature has users' emails and we want to protect our users' privacy. So this is basically a list of all the visits and where people came from. And when I click on each of those, I can basically see everything that they went through since the moment they arrived and when they arrived from. And I can see here.
This feature was my dream as a marketer. So just like to peek behind the shoulder of my users and to really understand what they've done in each session, what led them to finally sign up, how long it took them, how much time they spend on each page. So I think you're going to see soon the aggregated data that is going to be maybe more actionable. But I think that these are like the stories behind your users. So it's actually to understand what they're doing, how much time it took them, which pages they visited, and you can see each action that they performed, each button, where they came from. So just to really like understand the story behind it.
Right, and let's say you looked at a few of these kind of individual journeys and found a specific pattern, right? Oribi will also kind of help you find those patterns. And again, right now we looked at individual journeys, but let's look at journey aggregators, right? And again, I can look at any activity that I'm looking for. In this case, let's do it for try Oribi, right? Try Oribi for free, which is what we want to look at. So if I go to the visitor journey, and I'll be able to kind of see what's the aggregated journey of my users. So in this case, I'm going to choose try Oribi for free. And this will basically show me all the common paths. And now, it's not just, all visits and you have, those kind of, I remember that Google Analytics slide where you start on the homepage and then they go to 10 different pages and then those people go to 10 different pages and it becomes so fragmented that you really cannot make sense of it. So here you can basically see from the business impact, which is signups in this case, how many people converted and what's the most common paths. So we can see the number one path is naturally homepage, and they go to and they click on and sign up, right? But again, this landing page kind of seems very interesting. 13% of my signups in the last 30 days came from this landing page. But the better question is not just if this is converting, but what's the correlation? Are people that clicking on this page more likely to eventually sign up? And so what I can do here is I can see if this path is effective. Now I can ask the question, and my question is, should I build more landing pages? Is this landing page really does it convert better? And the answer is a yes, right? People that have visited this specific landing page are 9.5 times more likely to sign up for Oribi. So tomorrow I know that I need to build more pages like this one, but first I need to send more traffic to this page because people who visit this page are almost 10 times more likely to sign up than people who haven't visited. And I can ask any question that I want here, and I can look at any page. I can look at my blog post. On my blog post, right, I have hundreds of thousands of visits on my blogs, but is it converting people to signing up? Is it converting people to requesting demos?
Yeah, so I'll just add that this is, I think that this is a very valuable feature that will really help you correlate between things. And if I showed you before, like the marketing calendar with all the different activities, over here you can ask, do people that read my post are more likely to convert? Do people that saw the new video are more likely to convert? And actually I compared all the visitors that performed this event and all the users who didn't, and shows you the different metrics.
Exactly. And now we know kind of what to do tomorrow. And again, you can see all the different paths users took. But one of the key aspects, and one thing that was really hard for me in my previous company was just something that's kind of it sounds very simple from a marketing standpoint, is building a funnel. I just want to see the funnel of users who have visited my website, then did a few actions, then signed up. So in this case, because Oribi automatically tracks everything, I can just say, hey, show me all the visitors that visited anything, and then show me how many of those signed up, right? And I can also say later, show me how many of those installed, or whatever it is that I want them to do. And I can basically build really complex funnels. By the way, multi-domain funnels. Show me all the people that started in my blog, then moved to my website, then moved to my pricing page, then signed up, right? So I can kind of see different funnels, and once I set it up, that's it. I can measure them throughout, whenever things change. I can include and exclude specific use cases, right? Desktop only, or show me only users that came from Facebook, right? That came from a specific campaign or that came from a specific channel. And so that kind of allows me to really easily see how I'm, progressing, how my marketing campaigns are doing over time, not just at one time. See how much I'm, how well I'm doing. And I can do that by UTMs, which is also show me only the paths and funnels of people that clicked on one of my emails or one of my email campaigns. So I think there are a ton of other kind of features in Oribi, but I think for this session, it was really important to show the visitors or to show you guys how we're asking the questions in a different way and how we're thinking about the questions that we're asking. No longer, just visit, but what's the actual things that we want our users to do at the end of the day. And right before we jump into our Q&A session, so we have a team of cool conversion experts. Sorry?
Yeah, no, just said it. Here are some of them on the picture.
Exactly, some of them on the picture. And they can help you figure out which questions do you want to ask that are relevant for your marketing needs and for your campaigns. On the right side of your screen, you can see right now, and you can schedule a free conversion optimization session with one of them. Feel free to sign up for that right now. All right, let's move on to a few questions.
Yeah, I also want to mention that you can see over here, I think that it should be on your right side, a link to the product tour, and you'll get an email tomorrow with a recording of the webinar and a link to set the product tour.
Perfect. Right, a few questions. So what is the attribution model that you defined for this conversion path?
Yeah. So actually, we didn't demo it today, but one of the main features of Oribi is attribution. And for those of you who don't know what attribution means, it's giving credit to different channels along the way. So let's say, for example, that someone read your blog, and then you retargeted this user on Facebook, and this user, like a few months later, remembered that he needs your product, looked for it on Google, then signed up and paid. How would you credit each one of the channels? Is it like because of the blog? Is it because of the retargeting on Facebook? Or is it because of the search? And with Oribi, it's something that, first of all, as we mentioned, like creating the callless events is something that will really help you attribute things right, because you can see, for example, in no time, people that subscribe to the blog, where does it come from, which channels to credit, and then you have like lots of simple models, if it's like first touch, last touch, but also calculator that you can use that you can define yourself, and you can see the credit for each one of them, also to see the revenue that is coming from each channel.
Yeah. All right, another question. Can we get a link of the recording to share internally with colleagues? Yes. So this session is being recorded, and once the session ends, we will send you a recording so you can share it internally or whatever you want. Right, another question. I'm using GA for our PPC campaigns. Can I get the same data with Oribi, or should I keep my GA account, a Google Analytics account, in that case? So yeah, Oribi, as we showed you earlier, we have the UTM parameters that you can use on your campaigns. You probably are using on your campaigns, and so Oribi automatically tracks all that data. So anything that you want to define as a conversion or anything you want to define as an event is automatically collected by Oribi. So I hope that answers.
I would also add that I think that one of the downsides of Google Analytics is that it's part of Google, and it's very well connected to their advertising platform. So it has pros because you can see lots of data, but I think that it's very biased toward Google Ads, and it's also biased not to show you the results coming from Facebook. So I think many of our customers are using Oribi in order to have like this having the like one source of like the single source of truth, and to understand like the right attribution, and to really understand how much Google contribute to sales.
So another question, but GA is free. Google Analytics is free. So that was just a question, question mark. And so I think kind of this is kind of something that's very interesting, and I can kind of just attest for myself. GA is free, and we used it in the past. I used it in my previous company, but the cost that we had to put into making sure that the data is tracked correctly, not to mention dev costs, not to mention the cost that we had to have two people that just did analytics to be able to extract the data that we needed from Google Analytics, those costs aggregate. And so, it was, the tool itself was free, but everything around it cost us a lot of money. So I think kind of that's the show.
Right. Another question is, how does Oribi track revenue? So what needs to be done in order to collect the revenue? This is mainly for e-commerce sites, but not only. So if you're using Shopify or WooCommerce, you have built-in integration. You don't need to use code, so it just integrates and it will pull all the revenue data automatically, and then you can understand attribution, trends, to see the specific patterns of each visitor and how much they bought, to ask questions about the revenue. If you're not using WooCommerce or Shopify, you can do it manually. It will require code, but it's very simple, and you will need to do it only once.
All right. One more question. We have time for one more question. We have a lot of custom events we've already set up with Google Analytics. Can we export them to Oribi? So that's a really interesting question. So any event that you set up that is sent to Google Analytics, basically Oribi tracks those as well. I haven't showed it during the demo, but Oribi will track anything that you already have sent to Google Analytics. And so what you can do is you can actually use those and ask questions on Oribi data, and kind of use, say, for example, if you set up a custom event for scrolling in Google Analytics, you can say, out of the people that came from a specific channel and went through a specific stage in the funnel, how many ended up scrolling 75% of a specific page? So you can just kind of use that data to even ask smarter or more deeper questions.
Yeah, I would add to this that I think that Google Analytics can work together with Oribi. So as I mentioned before, Google Analytics is more about web analytics. It's about understanding the metrics of the website, while Oribi is more for marketing analytics. It's more about understanding your results, the leads, the sales, and to correlate them with all the different activities. So in many cases, it makes sense to also use Google Analytics, and both work very well together with the event. So you can export all the events from Google Analytics in one click, but you can also send out events from Oribi to Google Analytics in one click. So you can define the codeless events, and you can define every activity and every button click and every action to send it out to Google Analytics, to Google Ads, to Facebook, to other platforms, and then you'll have all the data over there without any assistance from developers.
Perfect. So I think that's all the time we have for questions. If you asked questions, we had a lot of questions that we didn't have a chance or time to answer. We will email you answering those questions, so fear not. We will reach out to you after this webinar and answer all your questions. And again, feel free to schedule a conversation with one of our conversion experts. If you want to try it yourself, there's a free trial that you can just start using and install on your website and see the data starting today. So feel free to use that on our website. And as you saw, we will be collecting that data and seeing your funnels. And I think that's it for today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Iris.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.